Good morning. My name is Barry Issenberg. I'm professor of medicine and director of the Gordon Center for Simulation and Innovation in Medical Education at the University of Miami. Today, I'm going to spend this session discussing the role of artificial intelligence in medical education. While there have been many technologies developed over the last 2 decades that impact how we train and prepare our learners to care for patients, I think none will be more impactful than artificial intelligence or AI. So what can we general statements then we say about AI in medical education? It's generally felt that all roles and tasks of medical educators will be impacted some way by AI. There have been rapid development and adoption of AI technologies, and often these are done before there's rigorous research to demonstrate the validity and effectiveness to provide for patients and to use in training. And more students have access to AI and AI technologies. And as educators, we have to be willing to work with our learners as partners in their training, because often the learners will be the ones training the teachers on how to use AI in various applications. On the right of the screen, you see many areas already of how AI is being used in healthcare. This discussion will talk about how AI can be used in medical education itself. You can see by this graph the number of publications related to AI or artificial intelligence in medical education over the last few years. It's growing exponentially. Every week, there are more publications that are disseminated that discuss how AI is being used to care for patients, and more how it's being used in medical education. And this growth in publications is only going to continue as we move forward. But first, before we go a further discussion, it's good to be on the same page, to have a common understanding and framework about what is artificial intelligence. And so broadly, artificial intelligence has been described as any technique or technology that enables machines to solve a task in a way that's similar to humans. It's a very broad definition, and it's all-encompassing on some very more specific technologies that are part of artificial intelligence. The next is machine learning. Machine learning uses specific algorithms that allow computers to learn from examples without being programmed. Before the advent of machine learning, computers would only do and would only complete tasks that were programmed by humans. Now with machine learning, computers on their own can take data and come up with new solutions, new applications without the direct involvement of humans. It's often able to do this through the use of artificial neural networks. And these are algorithms that are modeled after how the brain organizes thoughts, how the brain stores memories, and these neural networks are used for a more specific type of artificial intelligence called deep learning. And this is a subset of machine learning that uses artificial neural networks as a model, and it's able to automatically build structure of new data sets and new information. Natural language processing is a subset of linguistics and computer science that is able to understand not only numerical data, but language and contextual differences, contextual similarities, contextual frameworks that allow the machine learning and artificial intelligence to interpret speech. Now, why use AI in medical education? What artificial intelligence provides a greater ability to review and analyze very large sets of data. And through this analysis, it's able to improve pattern recognition and help humans make decisions. It can reduce human bias and subjective assessment of learner performance. Over the last 40 years, many studies have been done that looked at the differences in performance assessment. For instance, how raters judge students in OSCEs. And it's felt that the largest source of variance comes from rater differences, biases raters have, subjectivity that raters have. that's different than the objective performance of learners. And it's felt that AI may help raters become more objective and provide fair judgments of human performance. Sometimes these errors in judgment are unintentional. It may be because our attention is distracted, or we may be tired, or we may be impacted by the learner before. So what AI can do is to help reduce that subjectivity so that we can provide a more objective manner in how we judge performance. It'll also be able to provide standardized feedback so that all learners can receive feedback on their performance in a standardized manner. And again, this goes to our goal of having very fair judgments and assessments. And then through predictive modeling, which looking at large data sets, the AI can help teachers identify students early on who may be at increased risk of failing later in their course or later in their clerkship, so that we could design interventions that will help them remediate before they fail. So why use artificial intelligence in medical education now? The reference below is a consensus article that was published a few months ago by a consortium of authors, all focused on the use of AI in education. And this is one of the quotes. They state that educators must now act to incorporate training in AI across the health professions, or will be at risk of creating a health force who is unprepared to use AI in clinical practice. They felt very strongly that we can't wait for AI to be fully developed. We must begin exploring its use now and understanding what it can be used for and what it can't be used for, and how we educate our learners. Some of the proposed content areas in this symposium piece. This is basically seen as the structure or conceptual framework of, if you're interested in exploring AI, the different areas that you may consider. Some of them are foundational. One category is related to computer science and understanding how artificial intelligence works. The other is the application in helping us with clinical reasoning and managing large data sets. The use of AI will mean that our relationships between our patients and healthcare workers will change. And we have to be able to understand this and be able to prepare our learners that they're going to be practicing in a much different world. There's a whole domain of ethics and accountability about the use of AI, making sure it is used appropriately, and that all the risks that come with using new technologies are prevented as much as possible. And then finally, the greatest role for physician educators in particular is to play a role of leadership and oversight to make sure that AI is used judiciously and appropriately in medical education. And we'll go through each of these one by one in further detail. And what are some of the foundations? We should all have a basic understanding of what artificial intelligence is and how AI is different from other technology innovations that have occurred before. Someone described this would be analogous to a surgeon using a particular instrument, and that instrument changing in the middle of surgery. That's how fast the AI technology is evolving. In a very short period of time, the technology changes, and we must be constantly aware and flexible to be able to adapt as the AI is adapting. We have to understand how AI has already been incorporated in medical education. There are many applications that are already using that. And so some of the resistance that may occur whenever we adopt new technologies, we may already be using but not aware of it. You should have an understanding of who are the developers and who are the designers of AI. Who in our broader university of computational designers, of engineers, graphic artists, data set analysis that we can use and collaborate with as part of our teams. And it's important to make a distinction between the difference of artificial intelligence and augmented intelligence. Augmented intelligence focuses on the role of AI in being an assistance rather than a replacement of human intelligence. So we're thinking about augmented intelligence of how can we improve the performance of what we do, not replace what we do. Here's a well-known quote by a novelist in science fiction. He wrote in 1980, "Any teacher who can be replaced by a machine should be." And I have a slight modification that in the future, any teacher who does not use AI will be replaced by a teacher who does. What about reasoning and data? The vast amount of data that we're collecting on our learners every day is exceeding our capacity. It's requiring large amounts of administrative effort, so much so that we collect data that we never use. But it's important, if we're going to use AI to analyze this data, we have to make sure that it's being done in a safe way, both for our learners and our patients. And aware that, like all data and all technologies, there are certain risks of using it. Sometimes it may be inaccurate or incomplete, or the data may not represent the population for which it was intended, because AI needs data and able to grow and able to learn. But its ability to grow and learn is dependent on the data that it's being fed. Because that data is being entered into it, often by decisions that humans make, the biases and subjectivity of those humans can be introduced into this data. And sometimes the human biases that occur with a single teacher can be magnified across the entire system if it isn't evaluated and it isn't looked for prospectively. And finally, how often is the data in AI updated? If it's not done very often, then the AI can't learn and it can't improve. Our learners are constantly changing. Our health system is changing. And so the data that we use in order to help the AI grow and help AI learn has to be updated on a regular basis. Relational. This is about the relationships between us as educators and our learners and as the physician role in the health system. More and more, physician role will be more as a communicator rather than the ultimate decider of information. The communication role is not just with our learners, but it's also with patients and their family and the community. And as I said before, rather than having a dominant decision maker role, we need to be a partner with a team that includes not only us, but allied healthcare workers, patients, community workers, our administrative staff, and the AI system itself. And it's also changing the type of person who may go into medicine. Rather than the focus being on expertise to more being human-centric. So the AI assumes more of the cognitive load and more of the burden of handling all this data, and physicians assume more of the human load. And this will have implications on the type of individuals we want for the profession. Our screening practices for admissions into medical school and into residency may change as we look to more for individuals who are more team players, rather than those who may have been the smartest in their class or the more skilled in expertise, if those skills and that knowledge is going to change. There's a large concern about the appropriate use of AI, and this factors into the next domain related to ethics and accountability. We need to be mindful and look out for the potential of magnifying biases if that data isn't screened appropriately. But if we understand this, we can use AI to address inequities that may occur. We need to balance the AI reliance on patient data with privacy and security. We have to ensure that clinicians and our learners do not follow AI without questioning it. Through all, we have to focus on what's best for our patients, and we can't blindly assume that the AI will always know the right answer. We have to be very critical with any new technology, and especially AI. We have to determine and do research to evaluate the validity of the decisions that AI makes. And this could be as wide range as making judgments about learner performance and learner readiness for practice, to decisions we make in clinical reasoning in the interpretation of and ordering of tests, or making decisions about patient management. And then finally, a large area is about who is accountable and who's legally liable for errors that occur as a result of using AI. In my field of simulation, a big focus of the work we do is how can we plan to create safe systems of practice. You have to understand that we've tried to stress over the last 20 years that we won't want to focus on a single individual human error, but we want to look at a system-wide errors, so that there could be issues related to the system that get magnified when humans aren't prepared to practice in that system. AI will allow us to be more deliberate in our use of new interventions, our new treatments for patients, but they also pose the risk, because all of these networks may be connected, that a single error from one individual could be magnified across an entire health system. And leadership and oversight is probably the most important area that medical educators can become engaged, particularly physicians in health systems. We must be involved, physicians must be involved in the design process. We should be in a position of deciding which applications are adopted in the workplace. This could be in our classrooms, in our simulation centers, our clinical skills centers, our community clinics, or in the hospital. We have to have responsibility for updating AI applications, particularly when new technologies are developed and new evidence comes about. This has to be entered into the system. And we have to identify best practices in the design of AI applications. As you saw in the earlier screen, the large number of publications that are being disseminated every day. We need to do more focused studies in identifying what are the best elements for a particular use and adopt those and disseminate those. And then we have to make sure that there's responsibility and accountability for cybersecurity. As this data is shared and used by the AI system, we have to make sure our learner data and our patient data is secured. Now, how can AI be used more specifically in medical education? What you see are many of the roles that we as educators play in our daily lives, whether it's providing opportunities for students to learn, it's providing a role of mentoring, facilitating learning in a small group workshop, being an assessor in an OSCE or clinical skills examination, working with our team in curriculum development and operations, or developing digital resources or other type of learning resources. And in each one of these areas, AI is already being used to help medical educators. Here's one area for using AI to enhance adaptive learning for more precision learning. But using the AI technology, we can provide personalized education content. So as learners perform, as learners demonstrate their knowledge and skills, the system can learn and focus not on what they already know, but what they need improvement. And this data can help us target students' feedback so that each individual gets exactly the feedback they need to improve. This will help them identify their knowledge and skill gaps and allow them to respond more effectively. In addition, the AI technology through various wearable technologies and other sensors, we can monitor behavior, psychological, physiological, verbal communications to determine individual learner autonomy. We can look to see if they look anxious or unassured of performing a particular task. And using this data, the AI will allow us to provide more precision assessment, more precision feedback, so that the learners can achieve their greatest level of performance. In the future, looking at patterns of performance across learners, we'll be able to predict which learners are going to be deficient in a particular skill or a particular knowledge area, and customize content so that we can deliver just in time, so to allow them to keep pace at very high levels of benchmarks we expect from all our learners. Other approaches that AI has been used in medical education. It's often used in a simulation setting as experiential learnings for students to work directly with AI tools. This is an example of an AI operative assistant for a resident learning laparoscopic skills, where it's able to provide in real time feedback about their level of performance, where they're strong in green and where they need help. It also allows them to gauge where they are compared to their peers, so that as this student is learning, the system is constantly adapting its feedback to the learner's performance and able to customize that session just to focus on those areas that this learner needs. AI is also being used in small group sessions and lectures. It's incorporated within e-learning modules with chat box that can respond through natural language processing, and often used in interactive case workshops, particularly when faculty want to explore the ethics of and ethical implications of using AI in medical education. And often it's challenging with an already full curriculum that has so much content of where to identify courses where AI can be integrated. These are some examples of courses throughout the world where AI is being introduced. Often medical schools have courses on information technology that cover evidence-based medicine, or courses on health system science. And these naturally lend themselves to using AI, on incorporating AI content into the curriculum. And there may be new courses altogether that haven't existed before, particularly partnering with our interdisciplinary data scientists and others who work in computational science and engineering to develop courses that are brand new, that look at novel ways of how to teach learners about how to use this potentially very powerful technology. AI is being used at our own institution to help us with assessment of student competencies. This is particularly on assessments of clinical skills, where every day we're evaluating hundreds of students across many clerkships and many different disciplines, where we have to map their particular clinical performance against EPAs or objectives or competencies that we want to ensure that they have. And so what this allows us to do at a curriculum level is, over the course of a very short period of time, we can get data, and the AI system can help learners and those in charge of these courses flag particular competencies, or in this instance, EPAs, that are not even being addressed in a particular clerkship. And so while the goal is, in this particular example, is to have learners exposed to and evaluated across all 13 EPAs, it was found over one 12-week block that EPA 4, which is a competency related around entering orders into a electronic healthcare record, and EPA 8, which has to do with handovers between shifts of handing off a patient from one team to another, that across all of these clerkships that these two EPAs weren't met. And rather than wait till the end of the year, at the end of this 12-week clerkship, this was flagged, and then this could be corrected to make sure that the next clerkship had these EPAs not only as part of the learning curriculum, but also part of the assessment. One of the areas I alluded to before that are going to require us as medical educators to play a role is in the role of leadership. This was a paper in The Lancet in 2010 that looked at the future of education in the 21st century. And a big change in education is what's called transformative education, where we teach our learners not just the information and skills they need and the values they need, but also the leadership attributes. So if they're going to be able to have a productive role in healthcare in the 21st century, they have to be a leader. And they have to also recognize that they have to be, because of their leadership influence, they have to be change agents to get other people willing to adopt this new technology. And so what should leaders know to incorporate AI into education and training for learners? These were some of the suggestions from that earlier reference about, if you're just beginning now to get into exploring how AI can be used, these are several areas that you can begin starting to have an action plan. And it may not be you as an individual, but working together as a team, you can address these different areas. One, educate the appropriate faculty who will be teaching AI and its basic concepts. Raise their awareness. Two, build relationships of expertise across the institution. AI has an impact across our universities and across our medical schools. And there's colleagues now outside of medicine who are involved in using this technology, and they should be part of our teams. If you don't have one already, establish a local advisory group. Those people who are already using AI and are exploring the expansion of it, develop an advisory group. That's often the first step. It's a good time to review your curriculum, looking at the competencies, the curricula you use to make sure learners are exposed to those competencies and can develop those competencies, and your assessments. Do you have any AI content in there? Are you using AI in any way as part of the curriculum delivery or curriculum operations, or curriculum evaluation? Review your institution's admissions process and criteria for selection. More and more, we're going to need healthcare providers who can work together in teams. And the first step to ensure our future profession has these individuals is to look to see who we're admitting into medical school. Begin now and participate and engage in evaluation and research of AI in medical education. This is a brand new field with lots of opportunities, lots of areas for potential collaboration and scholarship, and just tremendous for those who haven't yet identified a particular area of expertise in medical education. This new field is only going to grow over the next several years, and it's a great time to get started. Engage in global discussions of AI. Refine and prioritize your unit's opportunities and objectives. And now, when I say global discussions, it's not just globally across the world, but also globally across your medical school and across your university, across your region and across your country. And then leverage or use AI to improve the process of education and improve the outcome of education. After all, AI is just a tool. We want to use our tools thoughtfully and judiciously if ultimately we want to aspire to have a program of excellence, to prepare our learners to be the best physicians possible, and ultimately to have the best outcomes for our patients. I want to thank you for this small amount of time. I look forward to the question and answer session afterwards. This was just a broad introduction into AI and its use in medical education. And I hope in the future there'll be many opportunities where we can share with each other the examples of how we're using AI in medical education. Thank you.